Hello! In this week's video we're going to look at 7 mistakes that you could avoid to make your photographs go to that next level. And these are all 7 mistakes that I personally made, so I'm talking from experience here. So let's get on with it. Okay, so let's crack on. What's mistake number 1? Well, mistake number 1 is shooting at eye level all of the time. Now don't get me wrong, there may be times when shooting at eye level is the right thing to do, but when it comes to landscape photography, it's very, very boring. When you think about it, wherever you go in nature, whether it's a nice walk down a beach, up a hill or a mountain, you're always seeing the world through eye level photography, as it were. So if you can change that up, put the camera low, put it high, start to experiment with the angles, have it tilted down, tilted up, and then you end up with a far more interesting shot. And to try and have an example of that, I've set the camera up just now, really low to the ground. I've put some foreground in there between me and you, and hopefully that's given a little bit of interest rather than me just standing in front of the camera. There's some nice light, some nice background, and again, this would probably make a decent photograph if I wasn't in it. The other thing about shooting at eye level all the time is it becomes very difficult to get that foreground in to give you that little bit of interest in your shot. So try, get low, bring in the flowers, I mentioned that in last week's video, or get high and look down. You just need to be careful what the most flattering angle is if you're taking a photograph of a person. Too high up, too low down, big double chins, big fat heads, you've seen it all. The next mistake is shooting like what I call a tourist. Now you've all been on holiday and you've seen what a tourist shoots like. I used to be one, and I dare say you used to be too. But what a tourist does is walks up to a scene, gets absolutely blown away by it, picks up their camera and says, wow, that looks amazing. Now I don't know about you, but what I've found is no matter how good the view is, if I don't take some time to try and make a photograph out of it, it just doesn't do the scene justice. Things get far too big, too wide, and you're really only ever going to be looking at it on maybe a computer screen or a mobile phone, or even better, a picture on your wall. But regardless of what size you print that in, unless you go crazy and do your whole wall, it's never going to give you the same emotional connection that actually being there did. And that's why taking a little bit of time and composing your image makes all the difference. So mistake number 2, let's stop shooting like tourists. Mistake number 3 is something that I think probably all of us have either done or did when we first started out, and that's over editing our photographs. And I know that I was particularly bad at this at the start. I used to want to try and capture some absolutely earth-shattering images, and I wanted the viewer, when they saw it for the first time, to just be absolutely blown away, as I was on the day when I was sitting there looking at the scene. But what I tended to find was I get a little bit fond of the saturation slider, and I ended up pushing that north of 50 and sometimes all the way up to 75. Okay, and sometimes all the way up to 100. And as we know, that makes images start to look very amateurish very, very quickly. So what I learned to do was to watch some videos on how to edit your photographs properly. Now I do tend to go for a more saturated look and a more, dare I say it, cinematic look. I'm not really interested in capturing a documentary style image that tells you exactly what the tones were on the day. I want it to be something that's really inviting, something that makes you feel good when you look at it, and something that stops that scroll when people are going through Instagram. So go back and have a look at some of your images when you first started. I guarantee you might find that you were a little bit heavy-handed with things. So when it comes to editing your photographs, try and be a little bit more subtle. And a great tip I'll give you just now is when you think your edit's finished, go away, have a cup of coffee, let your brain forget about the image, come back to the room, switch the computer on, and see if you still think it's done. If it is, job's a good one. Okay, so let's go on to mistake number 4, and that is always shooting handheld. Now, I understand that handheld is just incredibly easy. It makes you feel less encumbered when you go out, when all you have to do is hold your camera, walk about, see an image, lift it to your eye, take the shot, and that's you. But there are times, obviously, when that's not going to cut it. On days when it's not as sunny as it is just now, when it's really dark later in the day, or you've got faster moving subjects that you need to slow down, that's when you need to start thinking about your shutter speed. And if you are slowing the shutter speed down to let more light into the camera, then you're going to need a tripod. There, I said it. Where a tripod really comes into its own is when there's not enough light around and you're struggling to get a good exposure. If you try and slow the shutter speed down to let more light into the camera and you're hand holding, that's when you can fall foul of soft or blurry images. And that's when I would recommend slap it onto a tripod. You can slow the shutter down as much as you like because all it's going to do is let in the amount of light you need to create your image. And another handy tip there is when you do that, switch on your 2-second delay so that when you press the button, the fact that you've done that doesn't create any judder in the camera. Oh, and one other thing, try not skimp on a tripod. You can buy a tripod for about £30 on Amazon and it's not really worth that £30. It becomes very shaky. If there's any sort of wind, it's going to blow about. So I would recommend spending as much as you can afford on a decent tripod. Mistake number 5 is not having a clear subject in your image. Now, as a landscape photographer, there are lots of times where I'm trying to create a nice view, and it could be that the subject is a mountain in the background. And if that's the case, then I need some supporting elements in my image to try and draw your eye to what I want you to look at. But what some people tend to do ties in with shooting like a tourist, and they don't have a clear idea of what it is they want you to look at. So no matter how good the view is, spend a little bit of time, look about and choose what it is that is the main thing about that photograph that you want people to look at. You can always have supporting actors in there that are secondary subjects, but be really clear on what it is. And I'll give you a clue. If one of the things that you think is a great subject is the view, it's a little bit wide, try and be more specific. Is it the tree on the hill? Is it the island? Is it the way the sun is going down over the water? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? But just be specific and intentional in what your subject is, because people get very bored very quickly just looking at nice views. We're almost there now. Mistake number 6 is always putting things in the centre of the image. Now, it might be blown out a little bit just now, but there's a lovely green barn there in the background. And if you're one of those people that whenever you take a photograph, you put the thing that you want everybody to look at smack bang in the middle of the camera, start flicking through your photographs, because you will see that they start to become very samey, a little bit boring. So what you should think about doing is pushing them off to the side like where I am just now, or putting them a little bit higher in the frame, a little bit lower. And I know last week I said that rules are there to be broken. They are indeed. But there are some times where they do come into play, and I did say that. And the rule of thirds is a rule that I do tend to use a little bit more often than others. So at the moment, I'm on one of the thirds, and that is sitting right in the middle. So try and experiment where you place the subject. And one other tip is if you're taking a photograph of an animal or somebody on a bike, whatever way they're facing, try and leave some more room wherever they're going in the frame. So if I'm facing this way, then I want to have room in my frame to walk into. Whereas if I turn this way and the edge of the frame is here, it's going to create tension. And again, you might want to do that, and that would be okay. But generally speaking, try and leave a little bit of breathing space in the frame for your subject to move into. And on to mistake number 7, the final mistake, and that is when we get too greedy and try and put too much into the one photograph. So I've tried to kind of set up a little scene here just now. I have overhanging branches, I have a leading line that's splitting into a Y, I've got side light, I've got a beach. There's a lot going on in this image. So again, that starts to confuse the brain. It says, what am I meant to be looking at here? So if you watch one of my other videos, it tells you about simplifying your image. As a photographer, it's really important to decide what not to put in an image rather than thinking, how much can I get in here at the one time? So be a little bit more deliberate. You'll see that that's a word I use quite a lot, is taking my time, being deliberate with what I'm choosing, and making sure I don't overrun my image with superfluous things that really don't bring anything to the party. Simple, simple, simple. It always works, and it makes your image far more eye-catching, and it will start to stand out against all those other images. If you found that to be of any use, guys, then consider giving me a thumbs up, and even better, if you want to hit that subscribe button, that would be phenomenal. What's absolutely blown me away is that over the last week we have over 500 new subscribers to the channel. So hello to all of you, and a big thank you to everybody that's been there since day one. I'm absolutely blown away. I don't know what else to say. But anyway, if you want to know a little bit more about what we talked today, I did mention 2 other videos and they're over here somewhere. So give them a watch next and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much, guys. Have a great week.